Welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series, novels, and films. For this episode, we're looking at a tale about a video game mail where everyone and the writers should probably just go to jail. That's right, we're talking Sony's Uncharted. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Stephen Ford, joined as always by Andrew Knuckles.
Hello.
And Joel Killingsworth.
Hello.
Oh, we have an echo in here. We'll have to check the mics for that.
See, it's great because I start alphabetically first, so Joel always has to go second.
Right. And so like you're stealing my intro, but then it looks like I'm stealing your intro, and it's just
he's trying to copy my intro. There's a big difference.
Totally what's
and
happening.
It legitimately physically pains me to use your names out of alphabetical order.
I know. That's
It's
why you
very
can't
hard.
say. I'm joined as always by Joel Killingsworth and Andrew Knuckles.
Because
That just sounds
I
weird.
am here just as always as Andrew is. I mean, go and check. It's
As
true.
Yet confirmed.
It's true.
Anyways, moving into actual relevant things.
Well, see, what we could do is I could be the host and like do the intro and all this other
You'd have to
kind
write
of
all
work.
the. You'd have to write all the intros.
I would not do that. But see, then I could introduce, and always, Joel Killingsworth and Stephen Ford.
But then he would just say whatever he said, and then
But the thing is, do you do
whatever I
it? Do you do it alphabetically by Ford and Killingsworth, or do you?
No, you do it by first name.
You do it by first
Yeah,
name.
you
do it by
always?
first name. Yeah.
Okay. Or you could just do it.
If I did it by last
names,
name,
comma, first name.
if I did it by last name, you would be first.
And joined as always by Killingsworth Joel and Ford
Okay.
Stephen.
Stop. Focus. Refocus. Back to the plot. But before we get into talking about Uncharted, we are going to have a little chat because spoilers, although not actual spoilers, but sort of spoilers, there's a theme here about over-the-top action sequences coming off this, and we figured we would take a look at some of our favorites before we get too deep into Uncharted.
Yeah, not our all-time favorites. There's honestly so many
The
action
list is
scenes that
huge.
in given scenarios, this one's better than this one and that kind of stuff. So we're just picking ones that we just find that we really like.
And this is also looking at action sequences that if you see it, if you were to look at this happening in real life, you're looking, okay, so where are the wires? Right?
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That
Like-
person did not just do that unaided.
Yeah, not truly grounded in reality action scenes.
Yeah.
Stuff that is a little fantastical, maybe still a little realistic, but also you're just
I mean,
kind of
for,
like
for Andrew's scene, it literally is, where are the wires?
Yeah.
My scene's just like primitive CGI.
Yep.
Anyways, so who wants to go first?
I can go first.
We'll let Andrew go first.
Yeah, I mean we've already kind of hinted at it anyways. Okay, so I'm probably actually picking the most grounded scene out of all of us. I think.
The most contextually, physically conceivable. Yes.
Yes. So I picked the fight scene between Michelle Yeoh and
You spent all this time looking up these names.
I know, right? Zhang. Zhen Yu character in the film.
enough.
I don't
There
want
we
to
go.
butcher the last name. I'm sorry. From Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This is the scene whenever Zhen Yu has green destiny and she is kind of squaring off against Michelle Yeoh's character in this kind of training ground. And Michelle Yeoh, they start fighting with swords, and then she moves to hook swords and starts, trying to fight that way. Then she moves to spears, and then she tries to move to this very heavy pole thing. And of course, Zhen Yu's character, she just has green destiny the entire time, and she is the young pupil, essentially, that is very brash and aggressive, but also a prodigy at the same time.
Mhm.
And the martial arts that they go through while fighting with these weapons is just so fantastical, just because it's like just right on the edge of being like, I wouldn't believe that something like this was happening if I was watching it, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I'm like, I could also kind of believe it if someone was.
Well, the whole film is couched in the style of these people are basically weightless.
Yeah, they can, they're running along bamboo and
Yeah.
fighting on top of trees and
running along walls sideways. and-
yeah. The movie is fantastic.
Oh,
It's
good,
been
yeah.
a couple years since I've seen it, but this has definitely been one of those fight scenes that really kind of stick out to you whenever you think of like, I'll say like martial arts films that aren't like Jackie Chan films or Donnie Yen, like from Ip Man and that kind of stuff, where it is very much grounded in just pure martial arts prowess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on in those fights, especially going from weapon to weapon. Like that's a big showcase of.
Well, it's a showcase of Michelle Yeoh's talent, and she's been in so many fantastic martial arts films, like Super Cop for U.S., but Police Story 3. Where whenever they go to Malaysia and then Jackie Chan's like hanging off of a helicopter ladder going, all the way through Kuala Lumpur. And I mean, great film, but she's a very talented actress, both for acting and martial art ability. So, yeah.
All right. So do you want me to take it, Joel, or you want it?
I'll take it.
Joel's taking it.
So I'm going to, we've had
fantastical,
far past fantastical Asian pick here, and then we're going completely the other end of the spectrum with dystopian future, maybe European, maybe American. The setting is a little hazy, but I'm going with Equilibrium, right?
Ooh.
So Christian Bale stars, Sean Bean's in it, does not make it out of the first 8 minutes. And
classic Sean Bean.
And the whole thing around this one is the fighting style is all about guns, right? And so the fighting class in this society go through really rigorous gun kata training where they have dual wielding pistols and they're shooting in different directions,
like gun
all
fu.
over the fight. Yeah, gun fu kind of stuff. And there's a lot of really, really cool scenes that they do with that. There's like a scene in the dark where all of the action is only lit by the muzzle blast, the muzzle flashes.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool. But like the one that really is kind of the most out there is we're getting to the climax of the film, and Christian Bale's character is about to get to the climactic fight with the ultimate villain. And there's this long hallway leading to the chamber where he's going to have that fight. And, it's filled with guards behind cover and all that kind of stuff. And so he takes a look and he sees how many bad guys there are, and he sees how long the hallway is. And the first thing he does is he takes out 2 extra magazines, and these magazines have weights on the bottom of them. And he just chucks them out into the hallway, kind of like grenades. And they just kind of slide over into the place where he wants them, and they stand up, right? Because they're weighted on the bottom with round weights. And then he goes through and he's doing his thing and he's shooting and running down the hallway. And then he does this flip and roll, ejecting his empty magazines, and then comes down onto the pre-thrown magazines with the bottom of his pistols just perfectly slamming in another pair of magazines to then continue running and shooting.
And now his guns are super out of weight because they have these heavy weights on the bottom.
Well, he's trained with those. It's fine.
That's how it works.
And it's followed up with a really fantastic close quarters pistol on pistol.
Someone with the weight on the mag. That'd be perfect.
Previously though, there were other magazines that had like little spikes that came out of the bottom that weren't always there. He pressed a button so that they would come out, and then he used them as bludgeons. But
stabby bludgeons.
So while you were talking about that, I actually realized why I know this scene so well is because a show, an anime that I watched that it was basically a parody anime, did this entire scene where all of the kids from this one class were basically like did an airsoft battle to basically choose who's going to like what the topic of their school festival for their class was going to be. So they're all battling, and the 2 main characters at the end meet up on top of the roof and basically have the equilibrium fight with airsoft guns. But it's all, of course, like totally exaggerated, and there's explosions, and, blood and all this other kind of stuff. And it's, but yeah, just whenever I think of that, I'm just like, that's where I know that from.
Yep.
All right, that's pretty good. So we've had Far Past Asia. Then we had Dystopian Future with Sean Bean. And now we're going to Dystopia Recent Past with Sean Bean. Because it's communist Russia.
Yeah, this
I couldn't
this-
remember where the scene takes place because it may also be in Asia.
Well, no, I mean, but this is actually USSR Russia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is before. So okay, we're gonna preface GoldenEye. We're talking about the cold open for GoldenEye, and this is before. This is a flashback, right? This is prior to, or not really a flashback,
It's not a flashback,
but we time skip after.
Yes.
That. I'm not sure what number of years, but I'm pretty sure it's pre-Soviet collapse and post-Soviet collapse is the span of GoldenEye.
Yeah, because towards the middle of the film, he's going through like basically a graveyard of statues.
Yeah, statuary graveyard, and that absolutely is post-Soviet collapse. So it's pre-collapse, post-collapse is the time skip.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, carrying on, and I don't know if it was in Asia, so I wasn't positive because some of Russia's in Europe and some of Russia's in Asia, so it's a gamble, and some of the Soviet Union isn't in Russia anymore, so it's also a gamble.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we cold open with Bond on a huge dam, which he bungee rappel jumps off of. Like that's a slash. It's like a bungee jump that turns into a
rappel,
a really awkward rappel
with a grappling gun.
Yeah, to pull yourself down against the force of the bungee. I forgot about that. So it's already really ridiculous because we're jumping off this massive dam, and to the point where like there are open questions for the stunt team of can you actually survive this jump doing this with an actual person?
And I'm pretty sure we mentioned in the pre-show, but I think like the stuntman actually like dislocated something, maybe his knee,
or he like broke a leg,
or
there were injuries involved just from the whiplash of the bungee cord. Anyways, so we go from there to infiltrate the secret facility under the dam, or maybe not so secret facility. And we have a little bit of gunfight. We have planting bombs, all this stuff. It all collapses, all falls apart, and we end up with this ending scene where now I guess the other side of this base fronts a giant mountainous cliff? ? I don't know how far. Like it's really you can't tell how far he's traveled underground, but he's covered a lot of ground. And so now we have Bond racing against time to escape the guards on a motorcycle down a runway that just so happens to have a small single-engine plane taking off at that moment. So the plane takes off, and he goes off the lip on the motorcycle into a skydive, and then proceeds to catch up to the plane in free fall and like pull his way into the door and throw the pilot out, and then flies off, and he's Bond. So it's pretty ridiculous.
It's probably one of the best Bond cold opens that they've ever done, though.
Yeah, I mean it is a fantastic,
definitely top 5, probably top 3 for me.
I mean, GoldenEye is
well, not the film itself, just the cold open.
In general, GoldenEye is just a great Bond film. Period.
Yeah,
but stuff like this that really pushes it up, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, then you had the tank chase scene, and that we've talked about before.
I'm biased a little bit, just
it was a formative year for Bond.
It was,
and you.
It was. Pierce Brosnan was the best Bond for one movie.
No, Tomorrow Never Dies is a very good film that also has Michelle Yeoh in it.
Oh, tie-in. We just tied all this together. Anyway, speaking of tying things together, now that we have talked about some over-the-top action sequences from movies past,
let's talk about one now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about one in the present. We're going to talk about Sony's Uncharted. So for people who may not be aware, this is a movie based off of a video game that was ripped off of another video game that has become other movies. Tomb Raider. Uncharted is just kind of a male marketed.
It's called
Tomb
Dude
Raider,
Raider,
which is actually hilarious because Tomb Raider was a male marketed Tomb Raider. Anyways,
yeah.
So on that note, I'm gonna let Joel give us a synopsis.
Actually, before we because you said Tomb Raider, it reminds me because in the film, I think the one with Angelina Jolie, there's an action.
Well, they all have Angelina Jolie.
No, there's another Tomb Raider that doesn't have her in it that just came out the most recently.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
There's a film?
Yes, 100%.
Like I knew about the new game.
No. He's gonna find it.
I got it.
Okay, but anyway, so
I'm very confused.
I'm pretty sure it was Tomb Raider where she has like the gun clips like kind of like on her side.
Yeah.
And then like she's fighting with both guns, dual wielding, and then drops both mags, and then
just kind of like rams them into the holster,
and then pulls them. Yeah, the equilibrium. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there is a 2018 Tomb Raider.
Somehow I conflated it with the video game.
I guess so. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure, it had a mini resurgence there with newer video games being released.
Yeah, well, because then they're like, oh, it's going to be modern. And anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, so Uncharted synopsis.
Synopsis.
Joel.
So we have the main character, Nathan Drake.
Yes.
And we learn that he grew up an orphan in a Catholic home for boys.
Mhm.
And his brother, who had dreams of treasure hunting, gets in trouble, sort of gets him in trouble, but Nathan's a minor at the time, so the brother skips out and
Doesn't want to go to jail.
And so Nathan grows up to sort of be fend for himself using the sort of shady skills that his brother taught him.
Yeah.
When he is approached by a professional treasure hunter with sort of little hooks that sort of hints that if you come with me, then this may lead to your brother, kind of hints to get him on board with a scheme to hunt for lost
Magellan
Spanish gold.
Gold! They're gold in the hills.
And then this leads on to a series of adventures where we get introduced to a wide cast of characters that all have their own different motivations and alliances that shift over the course of the story, and ending with a high adventure climactic sequence that may or may not have been executed rather poorly. And
Sources can neither confirm nor deny.
But we do know that the people that made it probably need to go to jail.
So with that being stated, our aggregate score, and this is from the three of us averaged out across the 4 pillars of the rubric that we use, which are spectacle, which is looking at just kind of the wow factor of the film, performance, looking at not only the character writing, but the acting and all the things that go into that. And then the score, the music of the film, as well as the plot.
Right.
And across all of that, we come out with a whopping 5.3 out of 10.
Not great. Is that the lowest we've rated a movie?
That may be.
I probably is.
Yeah.
We should check that.
Now, to balance that, we also have a separate score that we call entertainment, and that one came out looking a lot better. It came a whole 0.4 of a point up to 5.7.
You're like that one came out a whole lot better. I was like, did we push this way?
I was like, did we give it a
Maybe
6?
hesitate. So just for reference, the initial review is kind of a technical look, whereas the entertainment score is more just was this entertaining? Did I enjoy this? And the answer is slightly more.
Slightly more, yeah. So generally speaking, this is a moderately entertaining film. If you are a particular fan of either Tom Holland or
Mark Wahlberg,
then you'll probably really enjoy this film, because what you get is Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, if
quipping at each other and just doing...
And the character writing is fairly snappy. There's a lot of good humor in the character interactions. I am being more generous to it than Andrew wants me to be.
No.
I gave a face.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I offer an olive branch. The comedic timing is better than a $1 billion movie.
Which one are you thinking of?
You know what I'm thinking.
I mean, he's probably mentioning
This
Star
is Star
Wars.
Wars.
Yeah,
This is
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars.
It's
Okay,
$1 billion franchise. There are only so many options up there. It certainly isn't Marvel. It's Marvel style comedic timing.
Right.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, the film itself has some decent portions in it. However, if you are comparing it to other movies like National Treasure, which you will, because it's also along the same kind of realm, where there is some clues and puzzles that they have to figure out, on top of, hey, there's a big pile of gold at the end of the thing, and there's also a bad guy faction that is now also trying to get it, so you need to steal it before they steal it, kind of thing.
That's a fair comparison.
So it is very difficult to not directly compare it to those kind of films. Same thing with Indiana Jones, which is kind of probably where Uncharted got a lot of its inspiration, even from Tomb Raider did the same thing.
Yep.
And because of that, when you look at this film and then you look at other films that have also done this successfully, you can see what Uncharted didn't do properly.
Right. And I'm going to assume that if you're a fan of the video game series, maybe you like the film. I'm not sure.
Or maybe you like it less.
Maybe it ruined things. I do know that a couple of sequences are lifted straight out of the game.
Yes,
I've never played the game.
Well, and I know that the whole cargo plane thing at the beginning of the film and towards the end are very specifically like almost like lifted straight out of the game
from like Uncharted 3 or 4. I don't remember which one, but
there's also the issue that in the video game portrayal of the character of Nathan Drake, he's basically just lifted straight off of this is Nathan Fillion playing the role, right? And
yes and no. So there's actually,
I don't know who Nathan Fillion is, but I have a feeling that he is older than what Tom Holland looks like in the film.
For sure. Nathan Fillion is the lead in Castle or Firefly.
I still don't know who that is.
Well, I tried. Captain Hammer?
No.
Okay, I give up. I gave it my best shot. Anyways, there's just we give a lot of little bits and tidbits here, and I don't know if there's a whole lot.
It's
Antonio Banderas. I like that.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas was great
for the very short amount of time that he had on the screen. He was good.
He was good. He's just good.
So basically, if you like Indiana Jones, but were disappointed with Crystal Skull and would really like another go at it, this isn't the movie you're looking for.
Go to National Treasure. You're basically right there. But yeah, it was. The movie...
They took a swing at it, and they put a lot of power behind the swing. It just may not have been the most accurate of swings.
And I will say this, too, because I was definitely the harshest one out of all three of us for scoring. The final action set piece, I'm not going to give that away, because you can go watch the film or watch the trailer. I don't care.
Or you can wait until
we talk about it.
Yeah.
But the final action set piece on paper is something that I absolutely love the idea of.
No, the concept is incredible.
Fantastic.
The execution is questionable.
Execution was questionable at best.
Yeah.
Oh, oops. We pulled the wrong lever and are now plummeting towards the intermission and the spoilers beyond. If you're done with this film's tomfoolery, this is your chance to get out of the game. Before you go, though, if you liked what you heard, you can support us at patreon.com/spoilersintendedpodcast. If you decide to take the plunge into spoilers, we promise to stick with you to the end. You can trust us. Absolutely. Yeah.
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed a quick little intermission. We are now well along into our voyage. Magellan is dead and spoilers abound. Let's get to it.
Magellan's been dead for a very long time.
That's a spoiler. Thank you very much.
Now everyone knows.
Now everyone knows.
I'm sorry if you were just finding this out. There's probably a phone number you could call.
You were really hoping he was going to put in a surprise appearance.
We left a seat for him here.
They just pull in like Pirates of the Caribbean. Gold is undead gold. He's actually still alive.
Well, no, but see, whenever they find the ship, he's just there waiting for them.
Ah, son of Drake, I knew one day you would return.
Son of Drake. Anyways, so we're going to break down how we arrived to our composite score that was a 5.3. Yes, I nailed it. So first up on the list is a little chat about the spectacle. So this is the overall wow factor, the amazingness, the impressive,
the feeling,
the impressive movie feel. I'm struggling for words right now. Okay, so anyways, moving forward, I'm gonna give it to let's just get it out of the way. Andrew, take it away.
Well, spectacle. This was my highest score.
Yep, we're gonna get it out of the way.
I gave it a 5.
Oh no!
Oh, spoilers ahead. This is his highest score.
This was definitely my highest score.
He didn't say tied either.
Well, okay. I mean, like it is tied with something else.
It's his co-highest score.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So probably my biggest. Okay, like I'm not even actually going to knock the film for attempting what was probably one of the coolest things that I've ever like thought of someone else thinking of. For like, okay, the idea of helicopters like lifting, like, you know, having these two old pirate ships flying through, you know, I don't care if there's gold on or whatever, and then you're having this aerial swashbuckling battle. That is so cool. I don't care who you ask, like that is just awesome. It's completely implausible and it's impossible to happen, and I have math to prove it. But I didn't knock it for that. I knocked it because of basically everything that came before it. The clue finding pieces when they're in Barcelona were just so like not even matter of fact. There was no earned like portion of it. Like, so the one thing that I liked about National Treasure is whenever like you can tell that Ben Gates is very knowledgeable because he is always he never shuts up, and he always wants to just, you know, throw in more information.
He always has the factoid.
Yeah, exactly. And Nathan Drake is supposed to be this character where he has all of this information that he can use to solve the puzzle, right? And we never see any of that. It's just whenever it is relevant to these very specific question that he's being asked is when he produces that information.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
and
he just kind of brute forces his way through. And like, if you were just another person, you probably could have also solved this.
Exactly. And so like none of the actual puzzle solving feels earned. Then you have probably one of the most egregious kind of record scratch moments at the beginning of the film, where, you know, you have this you know, pretty jarring, like, oh, he's like fighting these dudes on this cargo truck. This is going to be pretty cool.
Right. So any time where a film says, yeah, we're going to have a cold open, but it's not actually a cold open to the story. This is a preview of an action sequence in the middle of the story. And then we're going to have I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Yeah.
That is the most trite and frustrating storytelling experience, because then, like, if that was just part of the initial, like, this is your introduction to him as a character, and this is completely unrelated,
like a different heist that's gone
it's a
wrong.
different heist that's gone wrong, and all, then it turns into something a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, that piece, and that's really kind of more of a plot complaint.
It is.
So I'm just going to take over from Andrew.
That's fine.
And I'm going to say this spectacle is also the home of my highest score. It's an 8, though, because you know what?
That's not anything to be proud of.
I gave up. No, I gave up and just accepted that we're going to carry some boats on some helicopters and do some high G maneuvers with these boats. They're 500 years old and should be crumbling wood, but you know what? They maintain and they survive, and it's okay. You got numbers.
Okay, so we're just because we're talking about it. Okay, so we're going to say the average weight of these Carrot class ships.
Yeah,
is because they're not galleons, because this was different time periods.
Early proto galleons.
Yes,
I guess.
Because they are 3-mast ships, but they are technically not galleons yet. So we're going to say that the average weight of these is around 100 tons.
Right, and that's based on actually looking up the ships that Magellan sailed with.
Correct. That is not including the weight of cannons. That is just basically the weight of the rigging.
As far as we know, as far as what Wikipedia gave us, I don't know if that's like technically like the fully loaded displacement. That's just.
I mean, I would presume that's fully loaded.
I assume so as well, but I really don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it literally doesn't matter, because the numbers are so far off,
right,
that it doesn't make a difference. So okay, we'll just say that that's with cannons and gunpowder and everything like that. That doesn't include actual cargo, which the gold itself, if we're going just by pure gold weight based on value of $5 billion per ship. So, or not per, but between both ships. So split this in half, and you're at 2.5. That is roughly 45 tons worth of gold weight on each ship. So already they're like, you're probably going to sink the ship just by having that much gold.
Right, because that's basically half the weight of the ship again.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
But okay, so we're just going to ignore that right now. We're just going to say, sure. So
it's no big deal.
We can just say there's a 150-ton ship that one helicopter has to lift.
Right.
Just take a guess at what the best helicopter can possibly lift currently, like that exists in reality.
But we already know the answer.
Not 150 tons. Okay, so it is I'm pretty sure it's a Russian helicopter that can lift up to 65 tons worth of weight.
Yeah.
The average cargo helicopter can lift roughly 15 tons.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not like they don't go around scooping up.
We're
big
not in the
loads.
same universe here.
Yeah, no, you're a full factor of 10 off.
Yeah.
Well, and this is also
Unladen.
static weight. This has nothing to do with centrifugal force or movement or anything like
Or
that.
just how the weight is distributed all the way across, a 70-foot long ship with
Yeah.
mass and all this. Like the weight's all over the place on these things.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, carry on.
So what you're saying is, unless the timber has completely rotted out, the helicopter couldn't pick it up. And in which case, when they picked it up, it would all just collapse under its own
Mhm.
presumed weight of all the gold.
Correct.
Ignoring, obviously the possibility that the value isn't just purely weight gold by ounces, and it's just, it's these rare pieces.
Yeah, it's
so
like,
therefore they
this
would have
crown was
value.
worn by this one guy, and it's worth $2 billion
Right,
by
so-
itself.
So,
Incan
so
emperor or
even
whatever.
even if the gold weighs literally nothing,
The helicopter,
it's
it still can't be done.
the helicopter can't pick up just the ship.
No.
Correct, and let alone move it
And we
the
did
way
it
that they're
twice.
moving it.
Yeah.
But like Andrew said, if I could ever imagine a scene that someone else was thinking of,
Yeah,
this is up there.
It is a really cool premise.
We have mid-air boats being supported by helicopter boarding actions.
and that is so cool to think about.
Yeah.
Like, I love the idea of that, and whoever thought about that, like, they should be given props.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
not go to jail for that one.
They're the only one that's
you can
safe.
be pardoned.
The only one that's safe. I mean, we also, we do have the straight up the whole cargo out the back of the plane bit at the start is also another really cool scene.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's technically been done in a James Bond film before,
yes, it has.
from the 80s.
And there's a reason why that nothing is new.
Yep.
But it is also definitely a scene that completely ignores physics. Because Tom Holland definitely does a Spider-Man leap from one to the other. And it's like, dude, as soon as you detach from that box,
The wind.
the
Right,
wind resistance just
because
whoop.
right, because like even so the first time you go through it in the cold open, you follow his progress up the chain
Mhm.
until he gets knocked out by the car.
The car.
Right,
and then
right.
you're like, oh, he has absolutely nothing now.
Right. And then but and you're only following him through the cold open. But then when you get to that scene during the actual film and you're also following the other main character who is in the car that knocks him out, you see from her perspective that there is a door at the front of the cargo compartment that's been blown out. So now the entire cargo compartment is a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
So that last jump where he's like, okay, I'm in the wind shadow of the plane, I can actually make this jump. He's not even safe there
It's not
because the
valid.
wind is
Yeah,
just
it's
going to
all-
blow him straight off.
But although I do love the idea of, I just struggled my way back into a cargo plane by climbing, from box to box that's connected, and then a classic car just shoves me back out into the void.
I
Yeah.
mean, the juxtaposition is funny.
It's pretty hilarious, yeah.
Yeah, and
And-
so like not having any idea what's going on and why that's there does have good comedic value there, but like you said, if it could have just been a real cold open where this was the last thing that he was doing and this crazy set of circumstances happened, then that sets the tone for the piece. It lets you know about him as a character, and it lets you know a lot about what it is that he does and what you can expect out of the adventure.
Exactly. And it would also set up for them to do another action piece to get to the island in the Philippines that they're
Mhm.
trying to get to that doesn't involve, the same thing, because you've basically seen it twice now.
Right.
And then there's no tension because you already know what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we'll get back to that in the plot too,
Yeah.
because it's dumb. But as a spectacle, it's pretty cool. And and again, another thing that I'll give them props for, they did, because it is a video game franchise,
Mm.
and you have a lot of first person stuff. They gave you a lot of first person shots from Nathan Drake's perspective in that moment where he's like windmilling
Yes.
in the air, and it's very disorienting and is very much so like drives home. This would be really hard to do in real life,
Yeah.
even ignoring the physics issues. at play.
The actual like wind and all this.
Yeah,
other-
so I'll give them props for those shots that they took the time to put that in, and
Mhm.
it felt like you were kind of in the video game in those
Yeah.
moments.
Well, you just took my last point.
I gave you the most positive point. Oh well, rip.
Well, what was your?
My score for spectacle is my lowest score.
Oh
What?
god.
My co-lowest score,
What?
and it is a 6.
Ugh.
Your lowest?
Yes.
That is-
Well, it's not a large spread. But
just
anyway,
insulting.
I was going to talk about the video game POV being a reference, and that was really cool. But you took that point.
It was
so,
cool though. I'll agree with you.
Yep.
Well, what brought it down to a 6?
What brought it down to a 6
Yeah.
was just the number of times where they just said, "What is physics?" was just kind of took me out, because like there's a lot of, because if you push it, if you just bend physics and say, "Come with me on this magical adventure,"
The explosion pushed me
like
back.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
right? Like you do something where you are inviting the audience to believe,
Mm-hmm.
then you can quote unquote ignore physics and it work out great. But in this case, what they did was they were like, "Boom, no physics. Let's go."
Yeah, this little bubble that everything is traveling in has no physics effect.
Right. And so
right now.
it's just like the free form jumps between boxes as if the wind wasn't there. And then
right after watching people get ripped off by the wind.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
like
and then in the free fall
ultimate plot armor.
when he's like on the hood of the car and he's like resting on it as if they're not both in free fall, before he makes the dive to get down to the crate where the parachute is.
Because it's also assuming that the car is not just tumbling end over end.
And we're also ignoring the fact that they like grab onto this crate and they open the parachute and he's just kind of like holding the netting. Like, yeah, when that parachute jerks, you just get ripped right off that box.
Yeah, like you just don't have an arm anymore.
Well, you don't hold. He's just holding on with his hands. Like, unless he has the grip strength of a god. Like, I don't know the main character's name, but from Shadow of the Colossus.
I was going to say Nathan Drake?
Or Nathan Drake, yeah. Or, nah, that's too obscure. Andrew would get it, Joel would. The main character from Castle in the Sky.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that kid's got grip strength for days. Anyway.
But anyway, that and the climactic sequence where you've got the ships being towed around by these proportionally tiny helicopters. It's just especially okay, so the part where Victor has to quickly pull back on the yoke because they've been cut off by the other helicopter and he's going up and over them.
Just ram it. Just
and
ram the other helicopter.
And the whole thing goes into free fall as he
hits weightless,
he hits the top of the arc. And I'm just like, okay, so when this thing hits the extent of the rope and the netting that it's in, it's going to just shatter into a billion pieces. No, it's fine. It even hits the water.
Oh, no.
It hits the water and drags in the water for a while, and it is totally fine.
Where the boat hits the water like the boat anchor that it is, that chopper is nose first in the water. It has no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
If physics
so
apply.
It's just, it's so in your face that it pulled me out.
But it can be kind of fun to just be like, yeah, we're just going to hand wave physics for a little while.
Well, it's not.
It's a very subtle line.
Yeah, no, you can't just drag a boat with a helicopter across the line. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about like the big action set pieces here. Yeah. And we're ignoring all of the very small action set pieces that happen during all the puzzle solving sections of
I actually did really enjoy. I mean, I gave it a 6. I really enjoyed the way that they had Nathan's character move. There was a whole lot of jump, like put a foot on the wall in order to get extra lateral motion while you're trying. I mean, we're trying to be specific,
parkour.
But yes, there's a lot of parkour that is different. Like if you're watching this movie because of Tom Holland, then you're probably a Spider-Man fan, right?
Yeah.
And the way that he moves in this film is refreshingly different. I was afraid it was just going to be this is Peter Parker, but he was in the way that he was moving, he was not.
Tomb Raider Parker.
Well, so like even I will say that I did like the fact that they played on the fact that he is not a very strong, because he's just a small guy.
Yeah.
They played on the fact that he cannot take someone that is like 2 weight classes ahead of him.
Yeah.
Like the Scottish guy, like he punches him and he's just like, guy doesn't even move.
Yeah.
Well, he does like the flying kick into one dude and just falls for it hard.
Which is probably what would happen.
For someone Tom Holland's size.
Yeah, I mean, he's
size.
he's probably like 150 pounds.
No, I don't think he is. Tom Holland is like 5'6",
we have to
5'7".
look up stats now.
I gotta look him up.
He's small.
I don't think he's that small.
Yes. So they make a joke in the movie about the fact that Wahlberg is 1 inch taller. Wahlberg's 5'7", Holland is 5'6".
Okay. pounds.
So while they're looking stuff up, I want to talk
he's
about
141 pounds.
Yeah. No. Anyways, I did like the fight scene between Sully and main protagonist lady, whose name has escaped me.
Nope,
Starts with a B.
that's Young Justice.
Oh, spoilers.
Oh no.
Oh no. Toddy Gabrielle Braddock.
Braddock, yes.
Yeah.
Well, she's the villainous.
Yeah, no,
Are you talking
I
about
said protagonist. I didn't mean to say protagonist. Sorry. The
when,
villain.
When,
Okay.
when they're
Her-
fighting in the Papa John's.
In the cafe,
Yeah.
Papa John's,
Papa John's.
while Tom Holland's character and the other girl are trying not to drown. And it's
Right.
kind of like there's the tension of, can you get the key? And like we're also having this fight. And that was actually a pretty good fight
Mhm.
for kind of like that tight in,
Mhm.
close. It's very, using the surroundings and the pieces around you kind of thing. And I mean, he literally uses her to shatter the glass that he couldn't get through, which we both laughed because he when he hits it initially, it's like, oh, it's plexiglass. And he throws her through. It's like, well, that's glass apparently.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been tempered glass.
I guess. I mean, it shatters like glass, but it didn't act like that when he was hitting
Yeah.
it, when he was like shooting it with the gun.
Well, yeah, because if it was actual glass, he would have been able to just punch right.
Yeah, you should go. I mean, you would regret it, but you would go right through it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought that little bit of a fight scene was pretty good. Like the small scale stuff was not bad, and the large spectacle things were emphatically a spectacle, and not a whole lot underneath there.
Yeah,
supporting that.
Like
boat.
it was very surface level. Some writer was like, "This would be a really cool idea," and he sold it really well. And then they were like, "Let's do it."
Actually, that boat scene might actually be something that happens in
That's the thing.
game.
It may happen in the games, and that's totally fine.
It's a video game.
But yeah, it's a video game. You can still kind of like
Doesn't make
allow it.
doesn't make it more plausible.
No, it definitely doesn't make it more plausible. But I mean, the idea of it is still really cool, and
It is.
Yeah.
So like there's definitely props for trying that can be given.
Yep.
If you feel like it.
Yeah. Okay, so while Steven is looking that up, we're going to move on to the performance.
Mhm.
Yes, indeed. So I think we should probably kind of go backwards on this one. And I'm going to start us off with a high note, and I gave performance a 7.
Okay.
Ooh, that is a high note.
That is a very high note.
So I really enjoyed the quips that the characters went through. This is definitely a movie with a lot of situational humor involved, where the characters are kind of ragging on each other for, leading them on and not telling them whole truths and stuff. And there's a lot of fun jokes that happen there. But then there's also a fair amount of drama that actually comes across well on the screen, particularly surrounding Nathan Drake's connection to his brother.
Right.
And he part of his reason for being here is that he while he does have a complicated past with his brother because his brother did abandon him, he still wants to find his brother and is hoping that this adventure will ultimately lead to finding his brother. And so when he is confronted with the idea that is not true, that his brother has been killed in association with Sully, that there is a scene where the intensity of those emotions was actually portrayed, I felt, rather well.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I do think that Tom and Mark have good interplay with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They do a good job of bouncing off of one another for the most part. I guess, am I taking over now?
Well, I do want to
go ahead.
Like, I mean, that was one solid point. The other point is there are two main villains in the film.
Mhm.
There's the Antonio Banderas villain who is just like flawless. Like, he's amazing. He's wonderful. Can he be the villain in every film? Because that was great. But then
He's
also,
a good villain and a good guy.
He's just a good guy.
Antonio
he's just a good
Banderas
actor.
Yeah.
pretending to be a rich Spanish person. Wait a minute. Hold up.
But anyway, I also thought that Tati Gabrielle's performance, who is the other villain of the piece,
Braddock.
I actually really enjoyed her performance. I thought that it wasn't necessarily complex because it's not really that kind of a film.
Yeah, it's very standardized.
But she was a unique brand of villain that I enjoyed.
I mean, she was very good at selling that role.
Mm-hmm.
She just didn't really get a ton of things to do with it. She was just kind of generic villain for the most part. But I certainly believed that she was
Yeah.
that villain. I did like the bit where she and Mark Wahlberg encounter each other after stealing the cross,
Mhm.
and they have kind of their little bits, and then he sells off, kind of pawns her off to actual security, and then like as he's leaving, she's just beating the crap out of
Right,
security in
right.
the background. He's like, well, anyways,
Yeah, it's like that's going to take her just long enough for me to
for,
get away.
for me to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in. We're going to scale on down here.
Yep.
So I gave performance a 5. And I like Tom Holland. I think he's a good Peter Parker. I think he makes a good quipping Spider-Man and a really good awkward high schooler. I like Tom Holland when he's wearing a mask, because then you can't see him doing the thing where it looks like he's got a frog in his mouth and it's uncomfortable, but he's got his mouth closed and he can't let it get out. So he just kind of stares at the camera with his cheeks kind of puffed out like he's holding it in, and he doesn't want to hold it in, but he's got to hold it in for whatever reason. And there is so much of that in this movie, because you can't just put a mask on him because he's not Spider-Man, and it is just intolerable. I got that out of my system.
Oh man.
It is so frustrating because once you see it, and you're all welcome. Once you see it, it cannot be unseen. He does it all the time. And I don't know if it's like someone like, if it's like he's like locking his jaw.
I'm pretty sure that's just, I mean, like everyone has their own
Their
like
thing.
facial tick
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
It's just, it cracks. It was pointed out by, I don't know, it's
Someone.
It's too late now for it to be Tumblr, but it was probably on Twitter. It's the kind of post you would see on Tumblr,
Or
though.
Reddit.
Or yeah, one of those. And then he's just too young ultimately for how the movie portrays the role. It's fine for him kind of, and you kind of get to see over time he kind of grows into it, right? He ends up wearing the iconic clothes, even with the
Mhm.
holsters and all that. But he's just too. It's really hard. Like selling Nicolas Cage to me as a treasure hunter action adventure star is a hard sell. Tom Holland might be a bridge too far, and that's saying something because Tom Holland's in way better shape than Nicolas Cage
Well-
probably ever has been in his life.
Well, yeah, but I'm like, and that's the thing is like Tom Holland is absolutely an action movie star. I don't think he is this action movie
Right.
star.
Or if he is, maybe he is in 10 years.
Yeah.
Which takes me to the other issue with Mark Wahlberg, where if this was 10 years ago, Wahlberg would be Nathan Drake.
hmm
And he's supposed to be playing kind of this grizzled, been there, done that. Not really a mentor, but also like kind of like the bad mentor where you learn from all the things you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But he's not old enough to really pull that character off either, because Wahlberg's not necessarily quote unquote young, but he still looks young.
hmm
And he doesn't have you need like the grizzled, like the salt and pepper kind of thing going on to really sell that look.
You need someone like I'm actually pretty sure that Mark is actually around this age, but he just doesn't really.
He doesn't look it
age.
right. That's the thing, is he's either in such good shape or has the genetics or whatever. He just doesn't look his age to fit this role, even though he is that age.
So Mark was born in 1971, so he's like 50. He'll be 51 this year,
Right.
and
Which that's the right age. That's a believable age.
it is the right age for the thing. He just doesn't have the look for it.
He doesn't look world worn enough
Mhm.
for the role. And
Yeah.
so that's a problem, because it's kind of one of those things where sometimes you see people cast like, oh, this is my father. And like, in real life, they're only like 3 years age difference. And despite Tom Holland looking really young, it just doesn't feel like the age gap is appropriate. The age gap just need to move up 10 years.
And maybe too, it's just an endemic problem with Hollywood movie making and that culture of movie making, where we want the actors to be pretty and we want the actors to be young,
and
right?
that's an
like
issue.
we don't get the portrayal of this is what age looks like, right? This is what experience really looks like, because it's all kind of an idyllic version of the real world.
Well, and also, if you want to release a franchise, you don't want to cast a dude who's 40, because in 5 years he may not be up to this franchise, and he might not be interested in doing
I don't
this
know. I mean,
franchise.
they've how old is Harrison Ford, and he's doing Indiana Jones films? I mean,
That doesn't mean it's good.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh, no, you're not wrong. But he also sells. I mean, that's also why these names are in this movie, right? They sell movies.
They do.
They put butts in the seats.
Well,
or
and
in the streaming.
So
whatever.
on that note, it like so far the domestic run for Uncharted is like 220 something odd million.
Okay, that's
Like-
that's reasonable.
That is a successful film
Mhm.
at this point. Like,
I don't know
it-
how much they paid for it. So
I don't.
couldn't say,
I did not look at the budget. I just saw, just basically what the box office was
Mhm,
today.
right.
And so clearly Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg sell tickets.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like those names. I mean, Tom Holland is the hotness right now.
Yeah,
Coming off of No
absolutely.
Way Home, etc.
Mm.
Like, you want to sell tickets. Those are great names to put in a movie. I just don't know if these were the right roles for them to be in these movies.
Yeah.
Or this movie.
So I gave I gave Performance a 3.
Woo!
Is that all just Antonio Banderas?
Antonio Banderas, 3 points.
Because he was great. Like, I haven't seen him
So,
in a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna try it all over Andrew.
No, okay. So the 3 points was basically Antonio Banderas and Tom Holland for a quarter of the scenes. So
Where he doesn't have his mouth closed.
I'm not a big fan of Tom Holland
Right. Yeah.
as an actor in general. Like, he's fine. He's just not me.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know.
I can confirm that. I am looking at Andrew right now. He is not Tom Holland.
But I don't know. Maybe he's just so young and he just has that baby face that
He looks younger than he is. I mean, he's
Yeah,
20, 25, 26 playing a high schooler going into college, and it's
yeah.
believable because he looks young.
But the other problem is I also don't like Mark Wahlberg. There are 2 films that I have seen that he has been in that I actually enjoyed watching.
Which 2 are those?
The Departed, and he's barely in
He's
the
barely
film.
in that. Okay.
And then Pain and Gain, which was a Michael Bay film.
Oh, you're forgetting Italian Job.
I never
don't
said
like-
I liked Italian Job.
You don't like Italian Job?
that might be his only good movie.
You don't like Italian Job?
I said it was entertaining enough.
I'm gonna need to rethink something.
Man,
no.
there are so many more heist films that are better than Italian Job.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Like, so
Anyways,
many.
this isn't a
Like,
review of
Italian Job's
Job.
not even in the top 20 for me.
Anyways, back to the plot. Uncharted. Focus.
Joel is so
He's
conflicted.
angry.
But
He's trying to
you-
do a list of 20 right now in his head.
The Italian Job, though.
Anyways, focus.
Okay, so, but my real hang up honestly was, I honestly, like, because I know Joel said that you really liked the chemistry of like all the quipping and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
I felt that they were just talking at each other and not like actually interacting with each other.
See, it felt like it started out rough, and then they got more settled into
Well,
each other,
it
which
was-
makes sense. Just
So
from
at the end of the film, it felt finally natural.
yes,
Well, see, for the whole like first segment, I'll say, when they're setting up that initial heist of the first cross,
Mhm.
it's very kind of tentative and experimental because they don't really know anything about each other yet, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the whole middle portion where it's actually really antagonistic because
they're very mad at each other.
yeah, they're actively distrustful.
yeah.
And then by the end of it, it starts to actually have genuine camaraderie in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so like if you stay to the post credit scene or
Mhm.
whatever, where they're doing like another basically like starting another
it's a
adventure,
scam to start
Yeah.
another heist kind of thing.
and like that interaction between them feels very natural, and it was fun and it was funny because they had some good jokes in there with the cat and
Yeah.
whatever. But then like I also knock it, like I don't think Tati Gabrielle's performance for Braddock was very interesting at all. It's just she just
Okay.
felt like any other goon
Okay.
that just kind of existed. I'm sorry, Joel.
Okay.
But then Chloe, Sophia Ali, just like she just kind of existed, and like
I think the most interesting
It-
thing about her character was her accent.
it was very like she was kind of like deer in headlights basically the entire
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just like the line she was given or
now
the
she
directing
did like the hole that she filled in characterizing Sully was
Yes.
really
was
good.
good. It's an important role
Well,
to
that's
fill.
plot.
Yeah.
That's plot.
Yeah.
I'll get there,
Yeah.
which still wasn't good. But yeah, I don't know. Like it just the chemistry that they had just didn't do it for me.
Mhm.
And and that's the thing. It doesn't help that I already don't really like those actors anyways.
right.
Like if it was like Tom Cruise instead of Mark Wahlberg, I probably would have just given it a higher score, even if it was the same line delivery.
But like Tom Cruise could also probably like he'd be just like roughing me up a little, and he could probably pull it off the grizzled
Yeah.
worn
Well,
veteran
and-
kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. They can really have some fun jokes in there because he actually is short.
They're all short.
Yeah, Mark's pretty short too.
Yeah, like I mean, we looked up
He's like 5'7".
No, Mark Wahlberg's 5'8",
5'8".
and Tom Holland's 5'7".
That's what it is.
They actually make a joke in the movie about the fact that there's an inch difference in their height.
Yeah.
And it forced me to look this up. It's like, well, I know that Wahlberg's not like tall just from seeing him in other movies, standing next to other people or whatever. Even in the movies, you can already say, okay, he's not that tall.
Yeah.
Anyways, Antonio Banderas was basically, I haven't given him a score yet, have I?
I don't.
Yeah,
you gave it a
we-
5.
we-
Okay,
we
cool.
went-
Yeah,
we
good.
went
We went
backwards
this
around.
way. Yeah, we went down. Antonio Banderas was definitely the highlight
Yeah. I mean,
as a villain, rich.
well, that's the thing too. Is I
type.
mean, like he is also. I mean, I say this because Mark Wahlberg is also in the film, and they're roughly the same age. And
Whoa, are they?
I think so.
Oh, I
I'm
don't
pretty sure.
think
I think
so.
Antonio Banderas is older.
He has to be older.
But well, I mean, like when I say roughly the same age, like they have a lot of movies under their belt.
Yeah. Okay. So Banderas is a decade older than Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I would have thought.
That's close enough.
Yeah. So
He looks older in this film, but
Antonio is a fantastic actor.
yes.
Like, and he has been in some amazing, amazing films that, I mean, I don't know. He's just a better actor than Mark Wahlberg.
Well, and it may just be that he's seen more, like a more diverse
higher
set of
range.
roles and scripts, so he has more to work with. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, being the villain is better.
A little bit more
There's
fun 'cause
more
you
to
can-
do. Yeah.
Right, like you're being handed just like you're gonna look better because you get to be cooler because you're the bad guy.
Yeah, you get to be cooler, you get to be meaner, so
Yeah.
you can, but then you also can add a lot more depth
Mm-hmm.
to them.
Well, he also kind of pulls off like the spurned heir, where
Yeah.
he's still trying to fulfill
Well, I mean,
the
he
family
kills his
legacy.
dad,
Yeah,
like,
but he's trying. Well, no, his goon kills his dad. He just watches
Yeah.
creepily. But, he's trying to
In the mirror.
Yeah, yeah. I know, like, why? What's going on? Look or don't.
No, we know in this world though that when somebody gets their throat slashed, there's only 3 drops of blood, so there
that
wasn't
is-
much to
It's a
watch.
PG film or PG-13
Yeah,
film.
they gotta
that
maintain the
gotta-
rating.
Just stab him in the back.
Yeah,
You don't have to show any blood then.
I know.
Anyways, so it sounds like it's time to not talk about the plot because we got to talk about the score first. What order? I'm going first.
Yep.
I'm going to take all y'all's points.
So we're starting low.
Yes. So I gave the score 4 because the title sequence is good music, but it was already done for you. Like it comes from the video game.
Okay, so does the main theme is the main theme in the movie the same main theme as
I'm
in
almost positive.
game?
If it's not the same, it's really close.
Okay.
So I say this as someone who has not played these games, so I'm kind of winging it just based on things I've read.
As someone with no information
No,
beyond
I have
a gut call.
None of us have. Now I'm about to look this up on air, but none of us have any experience with the Uncharted set. But beyond that, because that's actually something I'm giving a little credit for, even though it was already
That's what
done
I
for
gave it
you.
credit for.
That there's just all these moments where there's just
Nothing.
there's just I joked in the pre-show that, you know, when I walked out of a movie like Dune, could I hum any of it to myself? No, because it's all just brrr. But like I knew it was there, and when I left, I could still feel the impact of it.
I mean,
Right?
you're still vibrating.
I'm still
You're walking
vibrating,
tuning
yeah.
fork.
Yep.
So
Stole my joke.
it was a good joke, so he stole it. You made this, I made this.
Thank you for the sincerest form of flattery. I appreciate it.
Good artists create, great artists steal.
So it's just one of those things where there's just nothing, no main theme, that no real anything that stuck with me, and it's incredible actually, because there's a lot of like tense moments that I just don't like. They had their characters almost drowned. I don't remember any like.
I mean, there was just probably the normal like action movie music that existed.
Well, we had like a fight scene up above them, and I feel like I remember most of the stuff from that. But this is like a tense moment, and there's just nothing there. And
But see, that's the thing though. It's not a tense moment because you know that he lives, because at the beginning
they've already
of the
ruined
film,
it with the plot.
you
Yeah,
already
yeah.
know what's
Yeah,
going to
that's fair.
happen.
That's fair. Maybe he would be
Such
injured.
a terrible way to tell a story.
Yeah, it does take all the tension away from most of it. And at the point at which they oh gosh, all right, we're gonna hold on for that.
No, okay, no, actually, I'm gonna go even further.
No, stop.
So I say this is a terrible plot element to use, or way to write a story, is to like, how I got here.
Yeah.
I still like, from Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, I said that would be a way to save the show.
It would be a way to make it better. Like
That is
that's how bad.
it was.
We gotta. Well, we're past the spoiler wall for Uncharted. Not Book of Fred. Stop.
It's already dead.
It's already dead. Oh gosh, you did say that. That's. Oh wow.
Yo,
Yep.
I actually was thinking that the whole time that we were talking about this.
Anyways, the score, the music that wasn't there, that I don't remember much of it from. I'm gonna hand this off to Andrew while I look up to confirm.
I'm gonna be left with no points.
No, I'm actually going to give you yours because I basically have the same ones that Steven had, where I gave it a 5.
Yeah. Steven 4, Andrew 5.
The opening, the main theme of the film was actually quite good,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Ooh, this is something I would actually probably put on my just my normal like soundtrack, playlist that I have that I listen to on the regular." And I would go to the to the soundtrack and just take that one specific track and put it on there. I wouldn't take anything else from there, and that normally says something. Like I'll listen to a lot of stuff. But there's just nothing in this film. And it just and anything, whenever it did exist, it just didn't, there was no emotion to it. It was just exactly what you would think would be in an action film.
Yeah.
There was nothing that elevated it past that at all. So 5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm still in the same ballpark. I gave it a 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that for the majority of the film, the music was forgettable and generic, and while it technically supported the tone of the scene that it was in, it did so in a bland way.
Yeah.
Until we get to the final climactic sequence with the untenable boats in the air situation. And there's the opening of that whole sequence is Drake and Sully come bursting out of their hiding place on one of the boats, and they just start fighting the bad guys that are on the boat, which I don't know why the bad guys are on the boat.
There's no, because they couldn't fit in the helicopter.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to the plot yet.
Anyway, so they're fighting the bad guys on the boat.
Oh, now
right?
we're a plot Nazi. Okay, I see how it's gonna be.
A plotsy.
A plotsy. Oh my gosh.
They're fighting the bad guys on the boat, and the music is basically absent. There's a sort of a beat,
It's just not there.
and then there's a little bit of dun-dun-dun every once in a while. And at first, I heard that and I was like, "Oh, here's what they're doing. This could be a really tense sequence, but they're fighting no-named guys, and we have a boss fight coming up that we need room to escalate the tension as we get closer and closer to that, right? Because there's going to be layers to this fight. There's going to be different checkpoints along the way to mark our progress, and we need to be able
Making
to
a
escalate.
lot of video game references.
We need
right
to
now.
escalate the it's a video game. The
I
whole
know.
thing's a video game. It's fine. But we need to be constantly escalating tension. So they're
Right.
intentionally using the music to pull the tension down so they have more room to go up. That's great. I'm all on board. This is fantastic. Except they never changed the music at all. And so the entire thing was just depressed tension for the entire fight.
I love how you were like, I'm going to give them a lot of credit. They didn't deserve this credit.
It was so disappointing. So I gave it a 6.
That's a pretty good score overall for what we've been slinging around.
It's
Andrew.
true.
I mean, I
He already
I,
scored
did
it.
you?
I gave it a
yeah,
5. You were
yeah.
looking up stuff. But actually, since you already passed it to me, I'm just going to go ahead and take it. We're going to talk about the plot.
Oh my gosh, he just wants. Oh, before interlude, Drake's main theme does play at a couple of different points in the movie. It's very subtly worked in.
Okay.
So, it was not scored by the same person who did the video game, though.
Oh,
So,
okay. So props to them.
Good work.
Okay. Okay. So
Moving on.
now we're on to.
We don't give you many points, but
No,
good work.
You got a few. They scraped and saved for these points.
Yeah, they definitely put a lot more points into score and musical composition whenever they were building their character, because they definitely did not put it in the plot.
Yes.
Because I gave it a 3, and it was
Brutal. Savage.
abysmal.
Wrecked.
Absolutely take it down.
So, man, there's so many video game references. This is ridiculous.
It's almost like we're talking about a video
I
game
know.
adaptation.
Okay, so
Except the main
where to
character
begin?
is blue.
There's a lot of problems. So I'm just going to pick just one of the main ones that really bothered me towards the end. and then we can pick apart the rest as
We'll,
we
we'll,
go
we'll
along.
give score. We'll just hand it around and beat on it as we pass it.
So probably my biggest problem is whenever films choose to essentially make the final conflict of the film, or the final act, I guess, be happenstance. Like it wouldn't have happened otherwise. Okay.
Right.
So we have, they get off they save themselves from the plane via, ridiculous parachute shenanigans.
Non-physics. Yeah.
And then they are,
falling, but no
he
physics.
finally realizes the clues that his brother sent him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, it's over here. He does the little, crossy things where he points them and he finds the spot. Okay, cool. So then he misleads Chloe, and then he gets his little speedboat and gets in a speedboat and just goes straight to the place, right? And the bad guys are searching a place that they thought was there, or where the gold was, and they're just sitting there picking their noses on the beach because they're like, well, where's all the stuff? We're just at this resort, and just whatever's happening is happening. And then Nate just happens
who knows where they're going to be.
Who knows where they're going to be. He just is taking his little speedboat, uncovered speedboat, just past the shore,
past him.
Close enough to where she just happens to be looking in a looking glass out into the ocean, and hey, that's him. We should follow him.
Yep.
It is the most absurd thing, because if that doesn't happen,
there's no conflict.
Then there's literally no conflict. He finds it, and then that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Period. Done. End of story.
Well, it's not end of story though. I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. My gosh.
But we're going to start with I agree with you, and we're going to expand, because we have established that we're talking about roughly 90 tons worth of gold.
Yes.
At weight value.
At weight value. It's probably less than that, but
but even less, even factoring in a historical significance clause,
just
it's a ton
that.
or two of gold minimum.
Half that, 45 tons of gold.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be the most generous we could possibly. 10 tons of gold.
Right?
That is 1/9.
So he's there in a tiny little speedboat, right? So
go get that gold.
He is not taking that treasure away with him right there. So he's found it. He's got to go back out and somehow arrange a major excavation operation
with no funds.
With his only access to funds being Sully's credit card that he has used to get the hotel for the night and renting the speedboat so far. And
well, the best part too is that, okay, so he finds the little cave or whatever that this is in, and then he figures out that he needs to go underwater, right?
Mm-hmm.
In any realistic kind of world, you probably just die.
Yeah. Oh no.
Right.
Laura and I are both just
no
scuba gear. You're dead.
The thing is though, he saw light coming from the other side.
It does not matter. There is no way you could ever convince me to swim through that kind of hole.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with I don't trust myself as a swimmer.
No, actually, else. I actually actively
trained people die in that situation.
I actually actively had the thought while I was sitting there in the theater that I'm like, so if I was playing through this as a video game, I absolutely would dive under there, because I'm like, the game designers want me to go in there. That means that I can go in there and survive.
Exactly. Yeah. World designers of Earth didn't do that.
Right.
That's how Earth works.
But anyway, I did give it a 7. So I obviously saw something that I really enjoyed.
Glimmer of gold.
And that's was
incredible.
The way that the constantly shifting set of alliances between all of the different mini factions at play was set up and paid off. Right. So you have,
they sidelined an entire main character for the
she
final
wasn't,
act
she
of the
wasn't
film.
a main character though. She was a way to characterize both Drake and Sully individually, and then their relationship. So
she sidelined herself.
She did. Right. Actually, yeah, that's true.
She double-crossed the double-cross.
That's part of the payoff in that particular part of it too, is because you get to see Drake being clever, but also have integrity in this world of thieves.
Yeah, because he could have just tied her up.
Right, or just left without her, right? Or
shot
actively lied to her with the intent to deceive.
Yeah.
But he left the opportunity for her to trap herself because he wanted her to come with him.
Yeah.
But he couldn't trust her without a test.
Yeah.
And so he gave her the opportunity to be on his side, and she chose not to. And that's why she doesn't get to be involved. And so,
Okay,
And she also
I can agree
rents
with that.
a tiny speedboat with which to go collect several tons of gold. So none of these people are smart.
yeah. But anyway, but the way that is set up, where it is established that Sully is not a trustworthy person, and everyone he has ever come across
Is double crossed by him.
right, makes for a very interesting set of character motivations that play out really well across the movie. And that's why I rated it so high, in spite of all of the other glaring problems.
So I'm trying to think of, there's another, maybe it's a spy film or a spy series where basically like you literally cannot trust anyone.
Yeah.
And whenever like you just have to expect to get double crossed at every given moment.
I don't know.
Well, Squid Game is kind of like this. To where you essentially like you kind of make friends, but at the same time,
if you've ever played
Easy Alliance.
if you've ever played the board game Diplomacy, then that is
gosh.
exactly like
no, I mean
this.
that's exactly what it
Diplomacy
is.
is how you ruin friendships.
It's terrible. Don't play Diplomacy.
Well, Stephen, what did you give it? And then we can really.
I'm
break
going to
it down.
strike the middle tone,
I gave it a 6.
a 5. Not as high as Joel, not as low as Andrew.
So the middle.
The middle. That's by definition. I appreciated the cross, double cross, triple cross, backstab, etc.
Quadruple cross.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossing. And I also
crosses.
really appreciated the fact that we could have had kind of the cliche romance towards the end.
Mhm.
Well, I'm glad that there was no
and,
romance
and we
involved.
went right around that to make, because we were kind of in that realm of, well, maybe I can trust her, I can open up to her, we can open up to each other, we can support. Oh no, she still just wants the gold. Okay, cool.
I mean, I'd want $2 billion too, or $5 billion.
That's why you get that speedboat. Go pick it up, take it home with you. Maybe bring a shovel. But there are. Let's just be honest. There are a lot of problems, and y'all haven't hit on it yet. But I'm gonna hit on. I'm gonna beat this one to death because Lauren and I were just ruthlessly mocking this. So we have the whole opening record scratch scene, right, with the cargo plane and the cargo. Well, do y'all remember the motivation for why they had the cargo and why they were going to drop it out of the plane in the first place?
No.
Yeah. So they're going to fly over the location where the treasure's supposed to be and drop that cargo off. So it's there when it goes and meets them, right?
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't. Because when they land at the airport, they have 2 heavy lift helicopters that are going out there and like 20,
on a freight.
and like 20 boats. You could have just unloaded it from the plane and put it on the chopper. It's about to go pick up 140 tons of boat and gold. It can handle a couple of crates. There was no reason for that plane to open up to drop anything.
Yeah.
Like none of that should ever have occurred, period. And it's just one of these things like, what are y'all doing?
Well, okay.
No.
So, I mean, like that's pretty egregious. However,
It's pretty bad.
I've got more.
Oh, we got plenty more.
Okay, so whenever you watch like Indiana Jones and National Treasure is most recent example, or I'll say even like the Goonies, or but any of these kind of treasure hunting kind of things that have these artifacts that have existed within
hundreds of years
that have lasted for a long time. That has nothing to do with boats. This has everything to do with Barcelona, Spain. Okay, so you have all of these like clues, like the little like keyholes and everything that they need to use to connect clues and move on to the next thing.
Right.
So I can accept that while they were building these pieces of modern society around, I'll say like okay, so you have the grate, right? Like when like under the thing, and you can literally like just see directly down into this thing.
There's a little bit of a turn.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is like, okay, so someone, whenever they were building this infrastructure, that clearly there's a grate, like, so people have like put hands in this area to know that there's like a cavern down there with stuff in it. Because that's where like the little like the basins of sand or whatever.
There was the door there.
Yeah, there was a door.
And they had to use the keys to get through the door. So like it was a small area that didn't have anything of interest in it.
Yeah, okay, but even then, there is a specific door. Like any normal person.
Well, I actually, if we're going to make comparisons directly to National Treasure, really gave this a lot of leeway here because we're dealing with a European city and not a North American city. And so the time scale that we're talking about is much shorter compared to the existence of that city than it would be if we're talking about a U.S. city.
Well,
so like
there's been way less building done in that area.
Yeah, the ancient, the what we'll call ancient infrastructure of Barcelona pre-exists the time of when these people came back from their circumnavigation of the world and set this thing up, and then the city itself, from a building of infrastructure perspective, would not have changed.
They just build around
that,
whatever.
Yeah, you just build around and preserve.
Well, and I can totally agree with that because like them having like this wall with like the little keyhole just behind glass, it's a cool looking thing. You know, that actually is actually feels very European. And
and having like the bar down in where what used to be this like crypt area kind of thing.
Yeah. But then you also have this to where like there's like you have this bar kind of nightclub down there, and then just this random door that like
behind the bar.
Like it is like so borderline, just it doesn't like there's the longer this stuff exists in the world, the more chances someone just has it like stumbling upon it because they're doing renovations on something, or I don't know.
We can play the game here. If the longer this exists, the more likely it is that when you turn the key, it just doesn't work because the gear is eroded or the
rope that was holding.
I mean, you know, we just suspended these boats that have sat in a tropical jungle cavern for 500 years
that are just made of wood and tar.
It's really hard to fault the rest of the film in light of the travesty against physics that we know is coming.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, we have jumping the shark, right? And right now we have lifting the boat because we have this perfect boat-sized hole piercing through this cavern that they are able to like hover a helicopter over it, that they just brought shovels out and dug under. Again, if it weighs anything remotely as proper weight, 100-ton boat, and put a net under.
And it's important to note too that
and they did it twice.
They're in basically any story that you are trying to portray through film, you don't have time to justify everything. So there is an element of convenience that has to go in there simply for runtime consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
you don't want it to be a 3-hour film, especially not this one.
And so you have a not a quota, a budget that to spend, and the dollars you are spending are disbelief dollars, right?
Yes.
And so this movie,
I'm paying you to forget about that.
Right?
Hey, that's a real currency, and it is worth a lot of rubles right now.
Oh no. But anyway, they went way over budget with their disbelief dollars,
big time. And yeah, then we hoist out these ancient vessels that, like, by the time, so these boats are beached, right? They're on sand. By the time you beach a boat, if it is of that era, if it is brand new, like, it is already most likely ruined its structural integrity just because of its own weight. It needs to be in water.
Yeah, it needs to be in water because it has to displace. You can't put that much weight on a keel.
Right. Yeah. Or at least a well constructed dry dock.
Yeah.
At a minimum. You can't just put this in on the beach like that and then it still be structurally sound.
Yeah, because
like a year later.
Yeah, I mean it would literally just crumble under its own weight and then settle to where like the bottom of the keel would be split.
It would flatten itself out.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go to lift, there's no structural.
Yeah, there's nothing to hold it.
Yeah. So then we just lift that up with a helicopter that can't physically carry it.
Well, so my favorite part is so they're lifted up out of the air, and then Sully and Nate are up on the captain's deck, and they're kind of sneaking around, and they see the bad guys, and then Mark Wahlberg looks over to Tom Holland and says,
"Oh no,
you ready for a mutiny?" And then immediately grabs a 500-year-old rope and chooses to swing himself on the outside of the boat.
Yep.
That is suspended, hundreds of feet in the air.
And the thing is, the movie makes fun of itself immediately because then Tom tries to do the sail cut thing.
Yep.
And there's so little scrap of sail that he can't do it. it's like you're making fun of. You just made Wahlberg swing out over the abyss on a rope that has no integrity, and then you just made fun of yourself. It's like, ay. That's a lot of disbelief dollars right there.
I mean,
so that budget's in tatters, just like that sale.
Well,
and like you could have restored a lot of the budget if you just had the sale in tatters moment and not the other.
I mean, we have to assume too, because it's in a tropical region, there's rain all the time, and clearly these things are in the perfect spot that are just directly under this.
They're
hole.
right under a hole. They're getting all the rain.
Yes,
And we have no idea
rain.
how it got in there in the first place, too, right?
Well,
Like,
it's a cave in.
The implication was that they caved in the
Okay.
entrance because it was a decent sized entrance.
They hung out in the
blocked.
grotto, and then and then they basically
and
beached
they
the ships.
They kaboomed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the big thing here though is that so just we're again super pedantic at this point, but like
We don't even need to be.
500 years worth of rain and water and moisture of this tropical climate that just doesn't get dry. Period. 'Cause,
No,
I mean,
never.
And
just
it's
nature-
established that it's right under a hole. It is not protected from vertical
Any- yeah.
elements.
Well, and if you've ever been in a cave, there is no such thing as a dry cave.
Yeah.
no,
just
it's
by-
just
just by
moist.
default. And this one
Unless
has
you're in the Shire.
This one has the ocean in it already.
Yeah.
Is a damp cave.
Yeah. So then you have these cannons that hypothetically should like not
Rust.
just like they should just rust and not be
Yeah.
functional at all. It should just
Yeah.
explode in Tom Holland's face whenever he lights it up. But
And I mean we can continue beating this to death, but you know, it's one thing to say, oh, there's a lot of moisture and a lot of water. But this is the ocean. This is salt water.
Yeah.
This is as corrosive as water gets, basically.
given time, water can destroy anything.
And given time, it's okay though. Salt water didn't need it. It's already destroyed it for you. If you've ever lived anywhere near the coast of Florida, like your door handles just get destroyed just by existing.
Yep.
It's just oy. And the thing is, like, I would like to give them some credit, right? But then we have moments. Oh, okay. I want to say something nice. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be good. So it was wasted on all three of us, but there's a nice cameo.
Oh, is that the guy on the
I wanted
beach?
to talk about the
Yes,
cameo
yes,
because I have no idea who that was.
So the guy on the beach who they're like, oh yeah, we just fell out of a plane. Oh yeah, it happens to me all the time. So that's the actual voice actor for Nathan Drake.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
And he's also who they use for the mocap. So he's actually who the character is based on.
I thought
Okay.
that was the guy that the Firefly guy.
The art style has always looked like Nathan Fillion. And everyone has always just been like, oh, Nathan Fillion's going to play Nathan Drake because it's
Gotcha.
perfect.
Oh,
but
okay,
that
so
guy,
it's not actually.
no, that guy is Nathan Drake.
Gotcha.
And so they have a nice cameo and they also do it in a way that isn't super obtrusive.
Right, but the thing is, not knowing who he was, I'm like, that's an important cameo, and they are taking me away from what story there is to give me this cameo that I have
Hey,
no
they
idea
Look,
what there is.
Look, they got to
going on
support the loyal fan base. All right.
Look, they
Let 'em have an
just
Easter
fell
egg
out of the
every-
plane, used their wit and wiles to
And
suspend
incredible
our
grip
disbelief
strength.
with disbelief dollars to land in the
here.
ocean.
They're just making those disbelief dollars rain, just making it rain. Go
I mean, they are just taking out bank loans left and right.
Rafe Judkins is loaded with disbelief dollars to charge it to his credit card.
Ooh, boy. We'll talk about an underwater account.
I mean, just for reference, he is also the one that did Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
the
he's the
series.
showrunner for Amazon's Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
We've had, if we had the moment as I went through Wikipedia, I was like, oh, this person, his name is Purple.
I
Where
know
have
who
I
this
seen
person
this
is.
name before? You.
Yeah, I mean, just actually, this is another point that I kind of forgot to mention. I really have a big problem whenever he looks at the letters from the postcards from his brother.
That there was only a message on one of them.
Well,
I
Secret
really
message,
hated. I
secret
really
message.
hated.
Well, it's
that.
not
I wanted them to put these things together.
Yeah,
it's not even that there was the message on only one of them, the one that he picks up,
yeah.
but also the fact that every time he looked at it, we just got a voiceover in his head of his brother talking to him every single time.
I don't hate that.
It's
It
kind of
was-
funny.
It was ham-fisted.
No. You know what ham-fisted is? Ham-fisted is saying, hey, I really like the invisible ink trick in National Treasure. We're going to use that. Hey, I really like the smuggler's hole that they used to survive the gunpowder explosion in National Treasure. We're going to use that. hey, I really like ropes and wood that can survive hundreds of years until it's convenient for them to not. We're gonna use that. Like at some point, you gotta stop. I was gonna let Joel have this one, but I'm gonna set you. I'm gonna tee you off to go down this short rabbit hole. But the cross puzzle of we're gonna use these two to indicate the point at which the treasure is actually hidden by putting it on the map. So that's totally. And again, I've never played Uncharted, but watching the movie, Lauren's just like, "Oh, that was totally a video game mini game," and you know what? It was. That's exactly what that was. You want to expand?
Where you have like both sticks and you're trying.
You gotta get them to line up with each other.
It's like lockpicking in Skyrim. So the other problem with that, of course, is that when you have these two compasses in the geometric
and they have an overlap
sense, they are describing the arc of a circle, each of them separately, and those arcs overlap at 2 points. And so you are not given one unique solution, you're given two. And for the film, Drake just immediately goes to the right one, but we're not shown if the other one maybe pointed to an island off the coast. Or
it would have been
the coin
nice
and it
to at
worked.
least have him could be like, oh, that's in the water. Oh, that one's good. Because if you can have two intersecting circles where there's only 1 point, it's just a straight line. There's no point in having the compass. It's just the dead center of the island. Yeah. I mean, I really wanted to pull some of the stuff up from the beginning, but these boats in the air.
Well, I think that we have thoroughly hammered through what rotten wood there is, and we should move along to entertainment score.
I really would have loved to have seen Victor not pull the boat up enough and just ramming speed. Just rams right through the other chopper.
Yeah,
because like the whole mechanic of he's trying to like control the chopper and maintain this weight that is both physics suggestive and also physics non-suggestive is.
They're in milky space.
No.
Does this actually take place in Star Wars universe?
Oh no.
Is this
anyways,
a really long time ago in a very far away galaxy?
Galaxy far away. Anyways, entertainment score. We're gonna divert away from all of this. Who wants to take it first?
Probably start with someone that probably enjoyed the film more than I did.
Okay, so we'll start high and move low. So I gave entertainment for this film as a 7 out of 10.
That's pretty high.
I thought that if you go into this film looking for a good time, you can find it.
But you got to be determined to have a good time.
I mean, if you decide, there are some films that are just fantastic and they take you along a ride,
on a journey.
And there are some films that are just so bad that it doesn't matter how much you want to like them. They're going to be awful experiences. This one is neither extreme. And
I can agree with that.
You're going to find what you want to find in it. So if you go into it saying, I'm going to have a good time, I think you're going to have a good time. So I gave it a 7.
Okay, that's valid. So we're sliding down the scale. So I'll take it up next. I gave it a 6 because I think, similar points for you, Joel, that if you want to be entertained, I think there is entertainment there. I kind of do wish that one of us was like a big Uncharted fan. We kind of missed the opportunity here, where apparently none of us play Tomb Raider style games.
Tomb Raider.
Well, for research for this, we needed to go track down old video games and play them real quick.
Well, so I've never owned a PlayStation, so
I had a PlayStation.
Well, I take that back. I have owned PlayStations, but I never used them to play games.
Oh, that's true.
They were just media servers.
You have a Blu-ray player upstairs. But I mean, it was fine. There were too many, like you said, these are disbelief dollars, and they went over their credit line really hard. Like
there's a lot of overdraft fees.
There are acceptable limits, and they violated the acceptable limits in the first 3 minutes of the movie to give me a bad record scratch. You might wonder how I got here moment. Which to Andrew's point, again, it takes all the pressure off any other earlier interactions because he has to live at least to this point.
That's just a big problem with a lot of
yeah.
I mean, like whenever you start a show that is like I'll say 4 seasons long, it reduces a lot of the the stakes that happen early on in the show, because you're like, well, unless they change main characters, I have a good idea that he's still alive.
He's gonna get here.
Right. And so really, I mean, that is a common problem and not in that is the situation, but that the writers don't adjust to that being the situation. And so they make the stakes, oh, this character might die, which they don't. But if they were to change the stakes and be like, this character's friend might die, then you're like, ugh.
Well, but see, they tried to do that with this movie because they have Chloe almost drown. The problem is, at that point in the movie, we have no reason to care about her.
Yeah.
They have not really built up any kind of friendship or alliance with each other. They're like barely trusting each other through this puzzle. So why do I care? I don't.
Yeah. And the only reason why you care is because he cares, because he still has not gotten to that point where he hasn't been double-crossed yet.
Yeah.
But ultimately, to go back to like the stakes being, well, Nathan Drake can't die because we've seen him in this film. I mean, it's not that kind of story. We know that he makes it to the end just based on the genre that the film is in.
Well, yeah, but but if that's the case going into this, then you as a writer or someone that is signing off on this should make the stakes of the story not death and action based. You have to make it emotionally based.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And
personal
you
relationship, etc. Which they tried to dabble with, and I think they kind of straddled both lines, and then they let the two trucks pulled away from them and they fell in the middle.
Yeah.
So anyways, on that terrible analogy, I'm gonna hand this over to Andrew.
I mean, I gave it a 4.
For down the scale.
It's definitely one of those films where I will never willfully rewatch this, but not in the sense of like, oh, I hate this movie. Just more on the lines of, I could probably, like, if I'm going to watch an adventure film that has treasure hunting and everything, then I'll just go watch National Treasure or Indiana Jones or any other film that is treasure hunting besides this.
Right.
Now, what I may do is whenever it gets uploaded, I will probably go and rewatch the entire sequence of them on the boats. Like in the air and everything like that, to watch it again, because I actually enjoyed that part of the film despite it being completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of movie where if in this day and age you were still scrolling past TNT and TBS, and if that was on, you'd stop and be like, I'm gonna watch this through the boats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool. The boat scene's coming up in like 10 minutes. I can make it till then.
Yeah.
I'll go get a drink, get a snack.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's the kind of film this is for me. It's like, I gave it really low scores, and I get that. And it was really more just, you have 2 boats suspended with helicopters. I mean, come on.
I mean, we the whole reason we jumped in and said, yeah, we're going to review this was Andrew started out going, hey, did you see this trailer? This looks like it's going to be a dumpster fire. Like, all right, yeah, well, let's see how this is going to go.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, like, if you enjoy, films like this, more power to you. There's nothing wrong about wanting to watch this movie and enjoying it. Like, I was definitely the harshest one out of all 3 of us. Joel genuinely liked it more than I did. And, there's nothing wrong with that.
And again, none of us are Uncharted fans. For someone who is like a diehard Uncharted fan, this could just be perfect.
Or it could be even worse.
Or it could be destroying your childhood.
Right?
Yes,
like the stakes have just gone up.
Yeah. But if I was going to watch another treasure hunting film, I'd probably not pick this one.
There are a lot of options.
There's a lot of other gold in other places in the world or universe that would be far more interesting than this.
Collected by Magellan from mysterious origins of unknown places.
It's the gold.
The gold.
Yeah, the gold.
The gold.
They found it.
The gold.
We don't know where it came from, but it was the gold.
All right. Well, on that note, that sounds like all the time we have for this episode. So until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Joel.
And as always, every spoiler was intended. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard, you can support the show for as low as $1 at patreon.com/spoilersintendedpodcast. We also have a Discord server and would love to have more people joining in the conversation. Links are in the description below. Thank you.